Edge of Fate has brought a ton of changes to Destiny 2, some of them being exotic reworks, buffs, nerfs, all sorts of different changes. But one change that I was very excited for was the Actium War Rig change for the Titan. This is because this is actually now buffed this season, so it's still going to be reloading auto rifle and machine guns ammo, but as you get kills, it's going to be boosting other stats and most importantly, the damage of those weapons. So it's going to be a meter that slowly fills up as you get kills and slowly depletes as time goes on between kills. So when you pair this with one of the strongest weapons in the game, Choir of One, you end up with just an absolute wrecking ball of a build. For this video, I'm going to break down everything you need to put this build together and the way that I like to play it with the subclass that I like to use with it. Overall, this just pairs so many different powerful Titan abilities and aspects into just one setup, and you can take this into essentially any activity within Destiny 2. Now let's take a look at the actual build itself. So we're going to be running the Striker Titan, so the Arc subclass here on Titan. And our main exotics that we're going to be using are the Choir of One. This is easily one of the strongest weapons in the game for just like all around use. You can use it for mobs, you can use it for elites, champions, anything like that. If you hip fire it, you can absolutely destroy them, even when you're like still aiming down sight. You proc up some like onslaught. If you're using onslaught, you can do a ton of single target damage and just use this overall as your primary weapon for basically everything. Then we combine that with the Actium War Rig, which recently got buffed. So this reads, steadily reloads a portion of your equipped auto rifle or machine guns magazines from reserves. Final blows with auto rifles or machine guns boost their stability, ammo generation, and damage. Provides a moderate benefit to their airborne effectiveness. Big thing being the damage and the like steadily reloading the portion of your magazine. This way you can keep shooting for much longer with your Choir of One and just end up dealing way more damage as you are killing things. This is especially powerful synergy this season, especially when you combine it with the new weapon stat. So with the weapon stat, you guys are going to be able to stack that damage that Choir 1 just has by default, and then that War Rig is giving you. You pair that with the weapons, so you get to the extra 15% against minors and majors, and then another 15% on the bosses. So this way, no matter what you're fighting, you're going to be able to do a ton of extra damage. And then you pair that with your Surge mod, you get another multiplier there. So in today's world of Destiny, there's a lot of additive sources, especially if you guys are playing like any sort of melee build. A lot of those damage sources became additive. This way we can stack up a ton of multiplicative sources and end up dealing a lot of damage. Quickly going through the Striker subclass itself, with the super run Thunder Crash, so we can do a ton of damage in just a short burst. With this, use this on champions, any sort of boss, anything like that. You're going to be doing a huge chunk, if not just straight out killing them. Even without Curiosity of the Falling Star, it is still very strong. Then for our barricade, run the Rally Barricade. It has a shorter cooldown, and this way we can shoot from behind it. And you pair that with Storm's Keep here, which when you're sitting by your barricade, you gain stacks of bolt charge. And then when you're at max stacks of bolt charge, your next weapon hit can discharge that bolt charge. So as you're shooting the Choir 1, you're going to be doing a ton of extra damage. This is really good for ad clear as well as single target. So bolt charges just overall are very strong for anything. And then for our jump, I just run high lift, but you can use whatever jump you want. I run Thunderclap for our melee. This does a ton of damage to small groups, or if you charge it up, you can do a bit more damage in one shot, a higher health target. You combine that with Knockout, and this way we can get amplified. And getting amplified is very important here. Also getting the health regen is nice. But once we're amplified from a melee kill, so your ideal loop would be get a melee kill with your Thunderclap to proc Knockout. Then once you're amplified, this will pair into Spark of Frequency. So while you're amplified, the effects are increased and you gain increased stacks of bolt charges from all sources. So once that is procced, you slap down your Rally Barricade and get your Storm's Keep going with all of the different bolt charges, and you can stack them up quicker and deal a lot more damage and clear quicker with just more lightning strikes coming down. So that is just the overall combo that I like to go for with this build. Then in here, when you defeat a jolted target or defeating a target with a bolt charge, it's going to create an ionic trace. You can pair this with Arc Weapon Final Blows, have a chance to create an ionic trace, and collecting an ionic trace grants you a stack of bolt charge. This way you can feed them into each other more often, especially when you're mobbing. Or if you pull out like an arc LMG, you can be killing a lot of enemies with the arc LMG and creating ionic traces that way, in case you do happen to like run out of Acquire 1, or if you just want to be using the LMG. These three all work fantastic together. And then just an overall must on any sort of arc build is the Spark of Resistance. This is when you're surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage. This is huge for staying alive. So if you guys are running any sort of legendary campaign, the raid, anything like that, this is going to be helpful immensely for staying alive. With all of our armor in this build, the best way of reaching 200 weapons would be to get 30 base weapons on every piece. So just make sure it's a gunner archetype for your armor. So have it roll 30 into weapons on there. And then each one of the mod slots, throw in a plus 10 weapons. That will get you to exactly 200 weapons and give you the full damage bonus. But if you get like a 28 or a 29 roll on something, it's not going to be a big deal. You're just going to be a hair below 200 and you won't really notice it too much. But if you're going for perfect, just go for the 200 weapons. On our helmet, I run Void Siphon so we can create orbs with our Acquire a 1. Special Ammo Finder so we get more special ammo drops. And then I just have a point left over, so I go Radiant Light in case I'm playing with people and I can get them some armor charge when I cast my super. On our gloves, we're going to be running double Void Loader. You can drop one and match it, so like your special weapon up top, like if you have the Strand rocket pulse rifle, or any sort of the LMGs that you're running, you can match one of those to there. But I like to just run double and make sure my Acquire 1 can reload as fast as possible. And then as we move down, I just run some resistances. You can change out the elements to whatever you want. And I currently have a health mod on just because the health stat right now with just some of these low tier armors is a little low. This way I can get more health from my orbs. But if I need to change this out for resistance, I can. If I need like concussive dampener, you can change around these depending on what activity you're doing. On the boots, I run Void Surge, and then I stack on a Void Scavenger to get a little bit more ammo. You could drop Void Scavenger for a second Void Surge if you would like. And then I also run Better Already. Since Recuperation was nerfed down to, I think it's 15 health, and then the health stat determining how much health you get from an orb. This way, you just start regenerating your health the moment you pick up an orb. It helps you out a lot. It may not seem like it when you're constantly taking a ton of damage, but if you're making a lot of orbs and you keep on picking them up, you are going to be moving up health very quickly as you're picking up those orbs. So Better Already is a very good mod to have on. Then I just run a Time Dilation, so our surges last longer, and then a Powerful Attraction. We're going to be putting down a ton of barricades with this build. This way, if there's any orbs around, you can get like Better Already procced or your surges without actually having to go and collect them. Then I just have Outreach just because I have an extra point here. This way, if I do need my Thunderclap back, which ideally with the rotation, you're going to be using it right before you use your barricade anyways. This way you can get to that cooldown just a little bit jump started. Then the set pieces that I'm running for this build in terms of armor is the Bushido set. This is going to be the 4-piece. You can change out to the 4-piece for something else. I do like having the sword just because I usually have my Eager Edge sword on. So that is very nice DR. But you can change out that 2-piece for something else. But the 2-piece Bushido is very strong. So final blows with freshly drawn or reloaded weapons heal you. This can save you quite often, especially with how quick the Acquire 1 reloads with this setup. You can be just like shoot a couple shots, reload if you need health, and kill an enemy, and you're going to get a good chunk of healing. You pair that with the Better Already on the boots, and you can be very, very tanky. This is currently what I'm running for the artifact, but some key mods that you're going to want to pick up for this build. Diviner's Discounts, you can reduce the cost of that scav mod on your boot if you're running that, is always really nice. Fever and Chill, in case you're running a stasis or solar weapon in your heavy slot, so like an LMG or something like that, you can give yourself Radiant or Frost Armor. If you're giving yourself Radiant, you can pair that with Radiant Shrapnel, or if you're playing in a group and getting a Radiant to that way, you can just be dealing damage with your Acquire 1. It doesn't have to be a solar weapon, and you can release those solar projectiles. It offers a ton of extra damage. You can get some ignitions, which is nice. Elemental Benevolence. This way, when you're giving bolt charge to your teammates, you can get class ability energy back and cycle those barricades over and over. Also, picking up an elemental pickup matching your subclass element will give you energy to your least charged ability, so it'll be good for getting your barricade and melee back as you're generating those ionic traces. Then we can also get defeating a target has a chance to create an elemental pickup matching your equipped super element. These pair together. You can get more bolt charges like this as you're mobbing around, getting the ionic traces to come in. You don't even have to move for them, which is really nice. And then you're just gonna be getting the stacks of bolt charge. Shoulder to shoulder is really good DR if you're playing in a group. This is a fantastic skill. And then otherwise, I do have elemental overdrive on in case I am using like an arc heavy. This way I can get some extra damage to that weapon. Weapons in our kinetic and heavy slot that we can pair with our Acquire 1. The Mint Retrograde, the new rocket assisted pulse rifle, is very strong. I currently have a rewind rounds, elemental honing. This thing is great. Contest rating, this was awesome for the imp enemy. You can kill them in like 1 to 2 trigger pulls, which is very strong. And you never have to reload this thing with how the burst works with rewind rounds. Like you literally just never reload if you're hitting something, which is very strong. You can run a supremacy if you want a little bit more range. You can just like run a sniper, the call, especially if you're running the artifact mod in here, reciprocal draw. The call could be pretty good. There's a lot of different options you can run up here. Mountaintop if you want to do some jumping. When I was doing like encore speed running for power, I'd throw this on up here just because the choir is like really the only thing you need. It is just seriously that strong. But you can take your pick up here. You're not going to be using it too much just because it will take away from the drops, the ammo drops that you get for choir 1. So just use this for like a special occasion or just like a niche you need to fill. So like with the Mint Retrograde, this is really good if I'm fighting imps. For the heavies, like I said, I like to just run around with my slammer because it has eager edge, cold steel. This way I can deal with some champions. I can move around very quick. And once again, the choir 1 is just kind of handling everything. So I like to have that mobility. Otherwise, if you need to run a arc, void, LMG, if you have a solar one, that's good. I don't have one right now. My only crafted one is fixed odds. Those are all good. If you need to throw on a rocket, you can throw on a rocket. Anything like that is always a great option, just kind of depending on what you're playing. It's going to determine what goes in these slots. Otherwise, for the Choir 1 itself, I like to run Onslaught mostly just because that rate of fire is seriously insane for the DPS of this weapon. If you just want to focus purely on ad clear, you can change this out for destabilizing rounds. That way, as you're getting kills, you're going to be applying volatile. And overall, it's very strong for just clearing enemies. But for the most part, I like to just aim 1 by 1, and it just kills in 1 to 2 shots anyways. This thing just shooting faster is inadvertently ad clear while also offering a ton of single target damage. So that's currently why I'm running Onslaught, but you can take your pick between those two catalysts. But overall, that is the entire build and everything that you're going to need for it. This build just feels so good to play. The Choir 1 is just so strong. It feels good to just constantly be flicking around to all the different enemies and 1 to 2 tapping them. And it doesn't matter what enemy you end up looking at. You can just kill them so fast. Maters you're going to be killing in just a couple shots, even at super high tier difficulty activities. And then red bars, you're still going to be one-tapping them even in those high tier activities. So it's seriously just one of the strongest options for general play within the game right now, and it just feels so good to use. You pair that with 200 weapons, you get a ton of ammo back while also dealing a ton of extra damage. So you can maintain that special ammo and just continue to use Choir 1 to your heart's content. I really love pairing this setup with the Arc subclass, even though Choir 1 is a void weapon. I like to pair it with the Arc and the bolt charges. Them together just feel so good as they're both just so powerful. You're just combining 2 amazing things into one, and you end up with just dealing a ton of damage, which is seriously one of the best feeling things within Destiny 2 is just when you can be 1 to 2 tapping everything, just clearing super quickly. And these together is just a match made in heaven. But let me know down in the comments if you've been enjoying using Choir of 1 here in Edge of Fate as much as I have. But yeah, hope you all have a fantastic day. See ya.